during the semis, but it wasn't. It was a blowout during the championship. Beat Iowa. But what can you say about Caitlin Clark? I know all the talk's been about hand gestures or whatever, but the truth of the matter is those young ladies from LSU balled. Uh, Iowa balled up until that point, beating South Carolina, and that's really what I want to focus on. South Carolina, what a disappointment as far as playing in a tournament where you were undefeated, and then you come in, and then no game outside of what you were doing. Like they kept leaving the guard wide open. Like Iowa just said, we're not gonna guard you because you're not a threat to shoot, and the guard wouldn't take those shots unless pass the ball and then get it back and then take that shot. Just wouldn't step up and put pressure. And I was disappointed that Don Staley didn't have another go-to or somebody else to put in the game to take that shot, so that Iowa would have had to play some defense. But they just were able to stack the paint, stop the ball from getting inside to Boston, and pretty much that's how they won the game. But then they ran into a team, faster, stronger, and beating them to the punch and really stepped it up defensively. They played against a more physical team. I think Iowa to a point where they felt comfortable with what they had, but then you shut everybody else down. Caitlin Clark, Player of the Year, did her thing. Congratulations, but congratulations to LSU, Angel Reese and company. Kim Mulkey, how good of a coach is she? We know what she did with Baylor, and now she's taking LSU to the top. Tough to do, switch teams, bringing teams up. So that was pretty good on their part. Like I said, good tournament. On the men's side, San Diego State making it there for the first time. UConn ended up winning, but San Diego State, you got to get credit for doing your thing. Florida Atlantic put pressure on, tried to make it, didn't, came up short by just a little bit. Like, game came down to the wire between them and San Diego State. So I give them props for that. And UConn just blowing teams off the floor. The UConn men, they did their job. But you look at all of all of the teams that made it Sweet 16 and beyond. A lot of shockers, bracket busters. UConn, they weren't high on my list. Disappointed how Houston ended their run. I was going for Houston, the hometown, thinking that they would, bring, win the national championship, but they weren't able to make it that far. Maybe injuries had a little bit to do with it, but no excuses. It was a good, on both sides, men and women. It was great tournaments all the way around. The women setting a record for women's hoops as far as viewers participation. Leads me to think that sometimes it's those elements that factor in a lot of disputes over race and all that, but really and truly good basketball. Good sports is good sports in any sport, but good basketball is good basketball. You got a lot to look forward to moving in the future for the you don't know what's like. In my opinion, how it is what it is. You see how transfers work out, new recruits and all that stuff going on. But I think the biggest thing that being able to switch um, the universities and stuff like that and still ball, Moki did the same thing, switch universities, um, come out on top. Shaka Smart didn't win it all, but just to be able to bring those elements. Coaching is a huge part of any sport, but more so you see it in the tournament. Sometimes players can surprise a coach, and sometimes coaching can be everything. Where in the instance, like I said, South Carolina, I was disappointed in the coaching, where it was no other go tos, no switch up the plays, no surprises or anything in that Final Four in that semi, which allowed Iowa to win. In my opinion, it was a good game, but it could have been better if it was some adjustments being made. But I guess they couldn't really make too many adjustments if you ain't got the shooters from the outside. But uh, and Caitlin Clark, she would have been my most outstanding player of the tournament. They don't say MVP, but she was my MVP of the tournament. 40 points, 30 points, 40 points. She had, good runs. Uh, played her behind off. All them young ladies played their behind off. But hats off to LSU, hats off to UConn men, the Husky men, for winning, for being champions, for being on top of their game. Now, um, I don't know where to begin. NBA season, there we go. But before I get into the NBA season, let's talk briefly golf. Nerd Focus. Remember the Nerd Focus energy drink. Get your brain right and your game tight with Nerd Focus energy drink. Um, Golf, man. Tiger going for a six jacket. You know, got five of them. I'm impressed that he's still playing, and the reason why it's big news to me is if he can pull it off, it'll be one of the most unlikely, unpredictable comebacks ever. And plus, what we already know the attention that he brings to golf, uh, and we know what he can do. Hopefully, he will do it. Hopefully, um, he'll at least put on a good showing. I mean, I want to see the biggest names in golf. Um, maybe I'm old fashioned or something, but I want to see the Mickelsons, the McElroys, the DeChambos. I want to see them really give it a run. I want to see a good Masters where it's close. No one person running off. Sometimes in golf that one person get hot and then they burn the field up. But I want to see good tournaments, just like I said. If you listen to me about the tournament, it was good to see different teams make it versus the same old teams, even though UConn won a fifth. But at the same time, golf tournament, Tiger is going to be huge if he can even compete at a high level and not just make cuts, but actually turn up the heat. He's starting early. We look at, well, Ron might have a chance. It's a lot of people that's going to have a chance. It's wide open. But for me, uh, another green jacket for Tiger or Phil would change a lot of different things. And, the live golfers in the event, I mean, which is cool. Uh, I don't know why they didn't think about integrating right off the top instead of having these battles of golf leagues. I think or golf associations or whatever you want to call it. But I think that it's going to do. I think it's going to bode well for uh, the golf nation that these golfers go out there put on a good showing. It don't matter who you represent, because overall it's an individual sport, and at the end of the day, you really representing you and your brand, which is always tough to do. But like I said, man, how big it be Tiger to be great golfer, but is that I think one other person got like six or something like that. Greg Norman, I think, or something. I had to fact check that, but somebody got six, and I think Tiger getting a 6-1 would go a long way of boosting his legacy. And after all the stuff that he's been through, the injuries and all, to come back and win it would be tremendous. So go Tiger, but everybody else. I mean, if I had to take Tiger out of the field, I'm taking the field. I think it's a lot of other golfers trying to make a name, and the competition is thicker now than it was more so um, when Tiger won his last Masters. So, we'll have to just wait and see what happens, and who knows. But let's get it, man. NBA. Wow, the season uh, winding down. finna, it's been a crazy season as far as we talk. Everybody's talked about the amount of points scored, the 50-point games by all these different players, whether you had a name or a no name players dropping 50, whatever the case may be. Um, the lack of defense, but now it's getting into the thick of things, and people getting ready to see their teams either make it or don't make it. The play-ins. Let's start with the play-ins. The play-ins look like, well, on the West, you don't know who's gonna be in the play-ins right now because 7 through 10 haven't really been solidified yet. Uh, the East, you pretty much got to. Ooh, excuse me. The East, you pretty much got a scope on who's going to be where and what's going to be happening. A little bit of shifting might still go on there, um, as far as 6 and 7 spots or something, but uh, 6 through 8 or maybe. But pretty much see how the East is going to pan out. The West is tough, and a lot of the teams that people had high on their list, like I said, are going to, like I said last week, are either going to be fighting for a play-in spot or low on the playoff spots. And here's the funny thing: all I keep hearing experts say is that teams like the Lakers and the Warriors want to get in the sixth spot to take on the third seeded Kings who don't have a lot of experience and all that. And so that makes me want to, as a diehard fan, and loving underdogs and loving great stories or however they want to consider it, however you want to call it, I'm looking for the Kings. I'm looking for the Kings not to be an easy matchup. I'm looking for Mike Brown to have that squad ready because that right is on the wall and all that talk is going on about inexperience and all that. So whoever is up with that 6 seed is not going to be an easy feat because Sacramento, they may be young and they may not have all the experience of other teams, but I think that's going to be their advantage is that they already being slept on and disregarded, basically said that that's an easier path. I don't, with the way teams are played, it's not an easy path. But then look at disappointment for me. The disappointment of the year has to be the Dallas Mavericks. Has to be how they've blown that organization up and made one too many moves and maybe not the right moves. Now, I have to say that where you shouldn't have listened to me is the whole Jalen Brunson thing. Now, did I think Jalen Brunson would be as impactful as he's been for the Knicks? No, I said that before, but I didn't know that his impact of leaving the Mavericks would have them where they are right now. Uh, you thought the move with Kyrie would have boosted them a little bit, but they still can't play defense, and that's always been their Achilles heel the last this season. But you would think with a coach like Jay Kidd, they would have figured something out and put the best team out there on the floor to defend. But for me, like I said, it was getting rid of the Dinwiddie, the Finney Smiths and stuff like that. Like you got nothing on the perimeter to defend. You got a lot of scoring, but you got no stopper, nothing to stop the other team. And I think that Dinwiddie them gave you some kind of support. Well, you blew up the team that you had last year. They were in the Western Conference Finals. And this year they might even make. They don't even look like they're gonna make the play in. I don't think they're gonna make the play in because one more loss and it's probably gonna cost them heavy. They better hope that the OKC Thunder lose a couple of more or whatever because the teams that have tiebreakers over in the Luke made play thought they would have and get themselves a shot, but it just don't look like they have anything on this season. What a waste of a season after, like I said, been in the Western Conference Finals last year. So you look at regressing, whereas the Kings of progress, there was a regression right there. Um, Teams that struggling, I know I picked the Clippers. I gotta ride that out. I can't switch now, but don't look like the Clippers gonna do much either. Tonight's a telltale game later on tonight. Clippers and Lakers. The winner of that game stand a good chance of avoiding the play-in. Um, Loser probably gonna end up in the play-in and having to try to fight through to stay alive. So you're looking at where the Lakers came from. Good moves on their part. I was like, Rob Pelinka should probably lose his job and all this other stuff. And then what do you know? The Lakers surprise. But like I said, what would be a tournament without the so-called king, without the king in it? I want to see, I want to see them lose at the peak. Uh, I want to see them lose in the playoffs. To not make the playoffs would be disappointing. But you look at it, it's wide open on both sides. I know the Bucks stand a good chance. I can ride that wave all the way, but I'm looking at everybody keep talking about the Celtics and Jalen Brown and what he's going to do next year. What is he going to do this year? Like, are the Celtics going to get over the hump? Because the Celtics can find a way to win the whole thing. If they can win the championship, then whatever Jalen Brown decides to do after that it opens doors. It's wide open. But what I look at is the teams that could have an impact. Like I told you, the Heat, they've been struggling. They sitting at 7 right now, as of right now. But the night's young. We'll see where they end up. They got a chance to get in that 6th spot, but it's looking bleak. Look like the play in for Miami, which is crazy. Because they always seem like they're a tough team. And Spo is one of the better coaches to me, doing this thing. But you look at Mike Malone pump up his trying to pump up his squad, talking about um, his team. The Nuggets are saying they soft and all that, but hey, if they soft or not, that's up to that's up to the coach's opinion. But here it is right here. They never really been all that tough, in my opinion. I mean, they've been the best team in the West, but we know how it is with the Nuggets. Like I said, I want to see them go far in the playoffs. Is it a Western Conference Finals for them, or they go to fall short again? You never know. I mean, I think the way things go depends on who ends up in that 8th spot to challenge them in that first round. Um, High hopes for Phoenix. Phoenix haven't really lost a game with Kevin Durant in their lineup, so it'll be interesting. But I don't know if that's going to carry weight in the playoffs. Look like Phoenix will probably end up with the 4th seed, but who's going to challenge them in that 5th seed? That's open. If they end up playing, wouldn't this be something if they ended up playing the Warriors the first round? If it stays the way it is and it ends up Golden State versus the Phoenix Suns, you gotta say, man, that'll be a series worth watching. It might even go 7. You never know what's going to happen. Golden State ain't proved that they can win on the road, but I think that all goes out the window when the playoffs start. Um, I think that their experience would give them a shot, and it would be something if the Warriors were to beat the Phoenix Suns. I mean, one of those two teams would have to knock each other off, so that'll be an interesting matchup. And then you don't have to worry about either the Warriors or the Suns. And I think I'm leaning towards, for me, you can never underestimate Golden State. But for me, I would lean towards Phoenix just a little bit. I don't really like Phoenix, but I would lean towards Phoenix. No, actually, right here on the spot, it'll be a great series to watch. I really don't care who would win that series. However, I would take the Warriors. This is why I would take the Warriors. I just made up my mind just this quickly, uh, because they got that championship pedigree, and I think that a lot of times Kevin Durant's impact is overrated. You saw that the Warriors were able to win championships without him. He ain't won without the Warriors. Team, like I said, he had to prove it. You can win, and nobody ever says anything like that. Prove that you can win it without the Warriors. Prove that you can, take another team there and win. But it's not just on him. I just don't have a lot of faith in Devin Booker. I think he's soft. I think Devin Booker's soft. I think, you know how I feel about Chris Paul already. I just root against the guy. I think he's a great player. Like all these players are great. Let's just face it. Devin Booker's a great player. He's in the NBA. They all good players, man. They all at the top of the list, man. But my thing is, I just don't ride with. I just don't, I can't ride with Devin Booker. I seen him fold. Once I seen you fold, once I seen you can be D'd up, and you could be not just limited, you could be shut down. We seen Drew Holiday shut him down. I mean, like no great we're gonna get his shot off without being shut down and letting things get in his head. I don't know, but we'll have to see playoff pressure. But I think the Warriors would have a little bit of an advantage because they've been there and done that, and they got the core of the team. I think Kevin Durant would like to beat the Warriors, so then that would shut up a lot of talk. But we know Phoenix's goal is to win it all. We know the Nuggets' goal is to win it all. The Kings' goal, we're gonna see if the Kings are just happy to make the playoffs or if they serious. And I think the Kings are more serious than people think. Don't know how far that's going to take them. They might be an easy out in the first round, but I doubt it because they played uh, the cohesiveness. Their team has been together. I'm looking at the cohesiveness of teams. Certain teams, they just don't, they haven't played together a long period of time. Like the Clippers, they core team, and that's the disappointment. Another disappointing factor. The Clippers, with all that depth and to be where they are, to not have these guys really step up. And I know they made trades. Maybe they made one too many trades. Also, we're getting rid of key personnel. I think Reggie Jackson was a keeper. I think Jackson was a keeper because he can ball. I like his game, and I think the Nuggets are going to benefit from his game. I think he brings a mentality that might prove um, great for the Nuggets in a playoff situation. You got, if he gets meaningful minutes in the playoffs, he might work his way into being a heavy part of the rotation in the playoffs, just because they're gonna need some firepower here, there. They're gonna need that toughness. I think, I think maybe the Clippers made a mistake by getting rid of him, but we'll have to see how that all turns out. The Bucks and the Bulls playing as we speak. A lot on the line for both of them. Opportunities are there, but you're looking at teams that's really just trying to get in and make it to the top. But we'll see what is happening. Um, I'm really interested as I pull up the standings right here. As I pull up the standings, I think the things that I think what we have to really look at is if you go the Bulls sitting in that 10th spot in the East, and they playing the Bucks right now as we speak. As I said, they really don't have much to worry about. It's just about shifting your position right now. Um, you know, because 11 through 15 on the eastern side of things are eliminated. So you got the 10 teams in the East already set. You got you know from the Bucks, Celtics, 76ers, Cavaliers, Knicks, Nets, Heat, Hawks, Raptors, and Bulls. It's just a matter of um, where they're going to end up when it all counts. And I think where they are right now, um, the way you're looking at it, the teams that have clinched playoff position and the teams that are in the play-ins, you got teams that those teams in between. Uh, like I said, Miami and the Nets could probably switch 6 and 7, but I gave the Nets they props last week for hanging in there, hanging on. But then you're looking at, I talked about that Knicks and Cavaliers match that look like that. And it depends. See, here's the thing. Hold on, Sixers. Now that if the Nets hold on to that sixth spot, then the 76ers are going to advance easily. However, if Miami gets that sixth spot, then Philly could be in trouble that first round. Philly could go home the first round, and then it'll put all into the speculation on how good Philly is with Joel Embiid playing. In my mind, MVP. Now, a few weeks ago, the experts were saying that the MVP was all the jokers. For me, I think Embiid has earned the MVP this year. He just dropped 50 the other night, by the way, 52 last night, I think. But Embiid, I think he should be the MVP. I think Jokic took his foot off the gas, missed some games, and um, I get it. I don't want to hear that talk. I've said it before. I don't want to hear that talk about, oh, whose team is better or who has the best record, because we know in the past that's never mattered. Like, they gave it to the Joker with his team was a 6 seed. So I don't want to hear all that kind of talk. Really and truly, I think Joel Embiid has been that guy. I think it's his turn to have the MVP. If he don't get the MVP and they do give it to the Joker, then you can't blame him there either, because averaging a triple double means a lot. However, forget the MVP. Let's get back to these, what you're seeing now with the play-ins. If you were to see where it's going to be either the Heat or the Nets in that seventh spot, going up against, no doubt, looking like either the Bulls or the Raptors. The Raptors just trying to hang on. The Hawks, who I've been down on most of the season. I'm still disappointed in them that they even in the play-in. We should be talking about the Hawks. The Hawks should be somewhere between 1 through 5, or maybe even 6. But we know they're not going to make it to the 6th spot. Um, the Nets got that. Like I said, the Heat can catch them, but that's about it. Um, but if the Heat, mark my words, if the Heat get into that 6th spot uh, with these last few remaining games, then the 76ers are going to be in trouble. Remember, you heard it from me. It's the people's coach, yours truly, Cornelius Cole, Diehard Fan. Now, check it out. Um, in the East, it's not really too many disappointing teams, except maybe Charlotte, where they are. Um, which we talked about last week. I talked about them being, trade them getting rid of. Michael Jordan selling, but really and truly, the Hornets, they've suffered a lot of injuries. I still think it comes down to coaching there. But the Bulls, they got a chance. But here it is. If I had to pick the 8 teams that are going to make it, um, I would say the Raptors. I like them. They scrappy. Van Vliet, um, Anobi. They got certain players that I think, Siakam. They got players that I think are good, and they can they could probably make a run. And I'm not sold on the Hawks. I think the Raptors. So for me, it would be Raptors switch places with the Hawks, and those would be your teams. I have no faith in the Chicago Bulls because they haven't shown anything. DeRozan and Levine, that just hasn't been a good combination. They just haven't, uh, you know, pushed the throttle, full throttle, came in with something to give you something to look forward to. Um, so for me, like I said, it'll be the Heat, whether they 6 or 7, and then the 8 team to me would be the Raptors. And if the Raptors went in at 8, then they could give the Bucks a little bit of trouble. They won't beat the Bucks, but they can give. Um, I think they can give. I think they can give them more than the Hawks can give them. I'll put it that way. I think it'll be a sweep. The Bucks will sweep the Hawks, but I think they'll struggle a little bit. At least lose 1 or 2 to the Raptors if that was to happen. Um, but you're really looking at, and then the Celtics. If it stays the same, like the Heat could give the Celtics trouble. I think the Heat, and it's because of the coach and the playoff pedigree of the coach, Spoelstra, Pat Riley up there. They come up with a game plan, and in making the adjustments. Um, I think the Heat could be a threat to any one of those top teams. That's really what you have right now. Um, only thing that only thing that could probably happen 3 and 4. I don't see any switch. At um, there's no way the 76ers with 3 games remaining, unless Cavaliers just pull out the unbelievable win their next 2 games, and then the 76ers lose all 3. Would you possibly see a switch? I don't know who got the tiebreaker there, but you always said too many switches right there. Um, and in the West, wow, the West ridiculous right now. When I look at the West, um, from 5 through 10, not much separating them all. Like I said, the Lakers and the Clippers, that game is going to be huge tonight. It's going to be uh, and it's be just my luck that the Lakers end up beating the Clippers tonight, even though they haven't beat them in a long time. Uh, it's just because you can see the writing on the wall. However, uh, the Warriors in that fifth spot right now. I know the Clippers can probably leapfrog them with a win or put pressure there. Um, the matchups can be crazy, but it looks like the Mavericks on the outside looking in. I already talked about how sorry they look or whatever. Um, the Jazz are not out of it. Well, not out of it mathematically, but let's just be realistic. Um, the Pelicans hanging on, man. They trying. The T Wolves, and I think it could be some upsets in the West. To be honest, depends on where teams land and how teams. But that's how the NBA has been this year, up and down, lots of injuries. Some teams are limping in. Uh, Other teams are finally healthy. Like the Lakers look like they getting healthy. The Clippers limping in. The Golden State Warriors looking like they're gonna get Wiggins back. That's gonna um, go a long way for them while they get ready to make a playoff push. Um, I was down on the Timberwolves, but they still hanging in there. They got a shot, to be in the play in, and they might win a game in the play in, and make the playoffs for the second year in a row. Um, they got Carl Anthony Towns back. Um, Anthony Edwards. They looking healthy. The T Wolves looking healthy. Who knows what that's going to get them though? Um, you know, so teams coming in healthy, that's gonna make a lot of difference in what happens with squads right now. Um, Not looking at a shift. The Grizzlies, they looking like they all right. They doing what they can. Like I said last week, I want to see what the Grizzlies gonna put on it in the playoffs. Um, but if things were to stay the way they were, the Grizzlies going up against if the Lakers were to actually stay at 7 or whatever, that would be a tough matchup for the Grizzlies. But I think the Grizzlies would pull that off. I just think they're a little bit better team than the Lakers, but you don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, it's so much shifted, and the West has been crazy. It's been much less than predictable, but we know that. Um, I mean, it's just amazing that you still got 12 teams in the hunt at this point. Whereas on the other side, you pretty much you got the 10 teams that are go, just a little bit of shifting, but you still, the Mavericks got a chance. Nobody's The Jazz are not out of it yet. It appears they on their way out of it, but they still not out of it yet. So you got 12 teams that still can compete, and that's deep to me. That you got teams that can compete at this point. So we'll have to end up seeing what's happening, but getting ready to go into this stretch of the play-ins, getting ready to start. Gonna be some interesting NBA basketball on the teams that end up actually in the play-in. And now with another shout out to Nerd Focus, the energy drink. Y'all check that energy drink out. Um, Get your brain right and your game tight with Nerd Focus. And check out about Fantasy Lips Cosmetics. Check that out at fantasylips.com. Check out Fam Brand at Fam Brand at Instagram. Fam.brand at Instagram. And don't forget to check out my book. I got the second one coming out. Pains of the Man High 2 coming out. Check me out. Okay, so you know, as fans, love the home runs. As fans, we love the some of the great defensive plays. The catching the ball at the wall and the dives for the ball and stuff. But we know that pitching is always a heavy thing. So I was thinking, as far as pitchers, throwback moments, who would you rather have as a pitcher, Nolan Ryan or Roger Clemens? I know one has that integrity thing, the whole integrity question with the Roger Clemens. But I'm just saying, you know, minus all that, still was a great pitcher. Who you got? For me, growing up, a Texas guy, both of them Texas, uh, both of them, uh, Houston. Houston, Texas, in those areas and stuff. But Nolan Ryan to me, a better pitcher. Nolan Ryan to me, I grew up on the Nolan Ryan. I grew, watching, and I grew up watching Roger Clemens was playing well. But for me, Nolan Ryan, and the reason why I picked Nolan Ryan is I think that durable. I think you know strikeout master going. I mean, and I think not having to stoop to any levels to play the game, but going out there and just playing the game. I think uh, inning for inning. I think they were both great, like I said. But I would go for me. It's Nolan Ryan. Uh, it's the durability to me. It's the Clemens played a long time, but he left the game, came back, and we know about, did he use steroids? Didn't he use steroids? And all that stuff, being a part of the steroid era, having the being called to testify, all those things hurt. But Clemens should be a Hall of Famer, regardless of what baseball is saying. That's just my opinion. Um, I think that the steroid era took away some of the greatness off of some of these players. But I overall, I think that Nolan Ryan is a better. Excuse me for a minute, but I think Nolan Ryan is a better player. Sorry about that. But I think that for me, Nolan Ryan was a better pitcher. I can go on and on and talk pitchers. Randy Johnson was another one of my favorites. The big unit. Uh, he put in a lot of work, but I got to go with. But in this comparison, we know that Clemens, they both uh, reached those peaks. But I think that Nolan Ryan. I say Nolan Ryan was better, just because he was hard to hit, a strikeout master. But Clemens did his thing, and if you didn't have the steroids use over his head, then maybe it doesn't change my mind that he was a great pitcher. But however, when pairing the two, Ryan was just, in my mind, more durable. And I don't know what's happened throughout the years with baseball. Is it the same as the rest of the sports? But it seems like these guys' arms wear out quicker than they ever have before. Like, what is that about? Like, pitchers used to be on the mound forever back in the days. Now it seems like, 5 innings, pitcher out of there. Um, you know, it seems like the more medicine's gotten better, technology's gotten better, bodies have gotten weaker, or maybe the strength and conditioning has changed. Who knows? But you know, tell me who you got. Tell me who you got. Um, I'm sticking uh, NFL draft. I guess everybody's looking at the quarterbacks, and with the draft a few weeks away, uh, 2.5 weeks away, or something like that. You're looking at perhaps a lot of different teams blowing it out of proportion. Well, experts blowing it out of proportion on what teams are going to do, how teams are going to pick, all that stuff. On their mind or something like that. The Texans with the second overall pick, quarterback. Quarterbacks are like they're gonna be heavy, but the Texans are one of those franchises that have surprised in the past and not picked the way that you thought they would pick. You don't know what they have in their sleeve. We know they need a quarterback, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna try to get it to a early pick in the draft, which they should, in my opinion. But that's what I want to talk about. Everybody talks about these quarterbacks, but how often are quarterbacks bust when they go that high in the draft? There's been quite a few busts, or not living up to potential. We've seen most recently the Baker Mayfield. We're looking at Trey Lance, who's mostly injury prone, so we really don't know what Trey Lance really got on it. But a lot of these quarterbacks that have been picked high just haven't panned out. Um, but for me, defense. I look at defense, and I think that Joey Porter Jr., whoever gets that guy, they got something to work with. I think it's not just his, just because of who his daddy is and nothing like that. But if you saw the young man play, the young man can play some ball. Uh, you need physical. You need physical defensive players, and I think he's one of them. Um, Carter could be a good pick. Willie Anderson, I think the two standouts in the draft to me are going to be defensively, even though they won't get the credit. We know credit always goes to the offensive side, but I'm looking at Anderson and Joey Porter Jr. are my two picks for the draft that are going to be great additions to whatever squad they go to. They go be good pieces to have good young talent to play with. And another quarterback now that they've thrown into the conversation, Hendon Hooker, where may he go with his age, uh, being as old as he is, saying that he might. I think he'll go in the first round, late in the first round. But I'm looking at um, whoever, like we know it's an offensive game, and teams like to try to stack the offenses. But like I said, wherever Joey Porter falls and wherever Willie Anderson falls, those two picks, they gonna do some things. Uh, I'm talking immediate impacts, sort of like Sauce Gardner. What Sauce Gardner did, it's gonna be immediate impacts right away. You don't have to wait for results as long as they can stay healthy and get on the field. They're gonna be impactful players. Whereas these quarterbacks are still gonna have to develop and learn the NFL game. I mean, no matter if they start right away or if you sit them, and those are the things that I have for the draft. Like, how do you know when to start a guy? When all those things have to be evaluated and all those things have to be looked at. But I think that if you get a Bryce Young, you start him right away. I think that if you get a CJ Stroud, you start him right away. You let him get used. You don't bring in like Tua. I think Tua having to battle with Ryan Fitzpatrick for some reason didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I think that you stalls some players they ready right away, and like you install Peyton Manning's development. You let them go out there and you let them get it. You know, as I think have did play by to play. I think those things are crazy. I think Pittsburgh pretty much did that with Pickett. They went with Trubisky. I wasn't mad with them playing Trubisky, but I think that you start Pickett right away. Your season might have turned out different. Who knows? You might not have had a winning record. You ended up not having a losing season, but at the same time, um, you barely avoided it. I think that but Pickett did have some concussion issues early on. But I think that if you start him from day one, I think the expectations are different. We saw Brock Purdy waiting late. They had Trey Lance and then Jimmy Garoppolo, and then by the time they get to Brock Purdy, we seen the impact that he could have. But anything could happen. I think some players are ready, and for me, I think Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, I think Levis, I think all of them are ready, and I don't think they should wait behind me. But you have to let me know what you think if they have to wait behind players and stuff like that. I don't think they should have to wait. I think that it should be a jump off right away if you really trust the talent that you have. All that wait to develop and sit behind and watch. Like the craziest stuff. No from these players who had a little bit of success, but not much. But I don't know what quarterbacks gain by you're a top talent, you're a first overall, second overall pick, and then you forced to sit behind somebody who's not as talented as you, not as gifted as you. What are you learning? What are you learning? I mean, those sometimes you have to ask those questions like what are you learning? I mean, I get it. This guy has been in the NFL, but if he was all that, you wouldn't have brought me in anyway. I mean, unless you're talking Jordan Love and the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, then I didn't understand that at all. I mean, you got to have backup quarterbacks and stuff like that. But I'm thinking if you go invest in the rookie talent, you know, um, and I don't think you get you say they playing under a rookie contract and all that stuff, so it don't cost you a lot of money, but it costs you that development time. The way to develop is to be out there on the field. That's just my opinion. If you go start an offensive, okay, they say the quarterback has the hardest job. We get that, so it's a little bit different. But here it is, right here. The offensive linemen have to learn the protections. They have to block. They have to know where to be, when to be. A lot of the similar things to the quarterbacks and stuff like that. If you gonna start a rookie offensive lineman, then why not start a rookie quarterback? I mean, each team has their own way of thinking about things, but I think that in some instances it hinders development. And how do you know when a quarterback is ready, other than putting them out there and showing what they got? Like in my opinion, Justin Fields would have been better off with a better coach to begin with, and better parts around him. You set the quarterback up to get killed when you don't have much around him. However, you have to put all those pieces in place. I mean, we've seen it with the Jets. I mean, the Jets have had pick after pick after pick, and then they still looking for a quarterback right now because apparently they not good. That organization is not good at developing quarterbacks. Now with this new, with this coach that they have, they said, "Oh, we're just a quarterback away from all." We'll see. The verdict's still out on that. I'm not going there, but we've seen the different picks, and then you see like a Mac Jones who came in as a rookie, ready, 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 looking really good, playing all right, and ready. And then he regressed because of the offensive coordinator positions and stuff like that. So you see the differences. But Mac Jones was ready, and Zach Wilson was not. I guess I don't know. Just the different levels. Certain quarterbacks are ready, and certain ones are not. And I think it's all about the mentality, the approach of the team on what they're trying to do and what they're trying to get out of the players right away. But like I said, I think sometimes it's deflating that man is top talent and you have to play behind a guy who that you're going to surpass at some point, or the expectations are to surpass. Now we saw Carson Wentz came in, he was ready. It looked like, oh man, the sky is the limit for this guy. And then we saw how easily confidences can be destroyed. Not just to pick on certain people, but I'm saying like throughout the draft, I think that if you go to draft quarterback high, you got nothing to lose by starting them right away. Like you look at Joe Burrow. If he wasn't injured his rookie season, then you see the results. He was ready. He came in ready. Not all players are going to be a Joe Burrows. You're going to have some Josh Allens who can sit behind guys, but and then develop that way. But I think it's a little bit harder because the speed of the game is going to be the speed of the game, and the speed of the game is only getting faster. That's why I always lean towards defense when you're in the draft. I like to see which defensive players go where, because the league has sped up. Offenses are faster. So that's why you have they got a clock on how fast you got to throw the ball. And because these defenses are so talented nowadays. And all these teams with these championship defenses, but don't have these championship offenses. Sometimes our offense is surprised by the speed of the defense, which definitely is what happened to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles, where the Eagles defense just looked way quicker. But then when they got in the Super Bowl, maybe it was the Super Bowl lag or whatever, but that same defense didn't really look all that impressive against a team that was ready for them, like the Kansas City Chiefs, which another subject for another day, but maybe the 2 weeks in between the Super Bowl really balances things out or hurts to hinder some teams sometimes when you're just ready to go. The draft and excuse me, gonna have the next as soon as they get a team, come get another one of those has on team on a team. It depends on where they fall in the draft order. I'm not saying that they should leapfrog anybody in draft order because we know that, like I said, it's an offensive league. Uh, Offensive tackles. Teams are going to be looking to beef up their offensive lines, the interior defensive line, the offensive line. Edge rushers. those things are always going to be key. And just for a few minutes, I want to talk about my Cowboys for a minute. I think that I don't worry about the draft too much because it seems like we always draft pretty good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Offense has been a hit or miss. In some instances, but a lot of times we get those right. It's just about the players coming together and making things happen. I think sometimes the star on the helmet goes to their head, and they feel like they don't have you blame for the players to step up, but I'm anxious to see which directions we lean towards. I'm hearing speculations that we might get a tight end, but I'm thinking we're gonna find ways to help that defense, help that defense become close, to a shutout defense as possible, especially when you know the limitations on your quarterback and stuff like that. If you're going to keep the same quarterback, then you're going to either try to make it easier for him, which I don't know how much more easier we can make it. I still think it's some pieces to move. I wouldn't go a rookie wide receiver, but maybe a rookie tight end might be, that might be the move to go get somebody, since we lost Schultz, get some help there. Um, get somebody in development, get a good, a good running back, maybe some pieces in the draft. You never know what's going to happen. But I think defensively, another linebacker, maybe another cornerback or something, you know, those that might help us out. Like something, even though I know we picked up Gilmore, but that, Gilmore's age, it worries me. The wear and tear of playing that position so long, speed might have lost a step or two and still have to go out there and try to guard somebody really, really swift. But we'll see what happens as far as all that stuff goes. But I'm also looking at um, certain teams that were close. Like, what do the Bills need? Like, take the Bills. They were right there. They were picked favorites last year, heavily Super Bowl favorites. Of course, they fell short and all that stuff. But what do the Bills need to help them out? I think they should lean towards. I think the Bills need to lean towards maybe finding some real, maybe finding some real help. They had a decent defense, but on the defensive side of the ball, I think they need some linebackers. I think they need some help. We saw when Von Miller went down, they didn't really have much. Um, Teams are starting to go to depth as far as defensive line, rotating a bunch of guys defensively. I don't know if that necessarily works all the time, but like I said, the speed of the game is different, and if teams are going to be running no huddle, then yeah, when you can rotate, you need to rotate. We saw it work for some teams. We see it didn't work for other teams. Like in my opinion, I think my Cowboys rotated a little too much in the regular season. At certain points of the game, they shifted people around a little too much. But you try out different things to see what's going to work in the long run. I get it because you only got so many games in order to figure things out. So those things make a difference. But I think the biggest thing is outside of somebody's these players that can come in and adapt quickly to the X's and O's is and adapt to the speed of the game is also those attention points, the attention to details, lining up in the right spot and understanding the cadences, the different cadences of the quarterbacks. When you in the pros, you see a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers catches his team sleeping like a lot of times, like the rotation slow. They're sure they hiking the ball, or are they getting people called offsides with the cadences and stuff. So just all those little things. I think that it's a lot of sophisticated defensive players, and I think that when you get the right players, you'll know you'll see the difference quickly. Now a lot of it's 32 teams, lots of players out there to pick, but in the put out a and have to know what you're going to get when you get these quarterbacks because it's all upon the organization and how they choose to utilize the quarterbacks and how soon they try to get them to adjust and adapt and how soon they want to put them out there and give them a chance to run things. For me, if I'm a coach or if I'm a GM, my whole concept would be I got a rookie. Let's go. Let's get it. This is what we wanted. Get the use, get the most, see what we can do and develop them remember, Lamar Jackson sat behind Joe Flacco, and Flacco was done with. So when his opportunity came, Jackson got in there, and he never looked back. But what makes a quarterback ready, and what doesn't make what makes a player ready, and what doesn't make a player ready at any position? Um, you know, like I said last week, the verdict's still out on the Chase Young. He went high in the draft, but we haven't seen what he can do because he's been injured a lot. Like, what impact would he have? With like, are the injuries going to affect him to the point where he will be rather ineffective? Who knows what's going to happen in that situation? And then what's going to happen um, in the long run with some of these other players? It's a lot of players that you look at that you say, well. Who's going to make what, and like who's going to have a bigger impact on a team. Um, you know, but when you start looking at it, um, you know, the like the Arizona Cardinals, like, are you going offensive? Are you going defensive with the third? The Seattle Seahawks with the fifth pick. Like, who you taking? We know that a lot of these teams want quarterbacks. Like, for me, the Raiders, the Raiders with the seventh pick. You picked up Garoppolo, so um, you seem like you got your quarterback. I think that'll be a good spot to take a Anderson or a Joey Porter. I know they have those guys a little bit further down on a lot of people's lists, but on my list they would be heavy because, like I said, they would come in and make an instant impact, and we know that the Raiders need what they can get on defense. Because like their offense seems like it'll be all right unless you go offensive lineman, like I said, and there's so many of them to pick from that you got these top guys, but then you got guys that are unexpected, like sometimes lower in the draft. We've seen like late round picks in the draft, like we see where Michael Parsons came from in the draft. We see you know uh, Matthew Judon and stuff like that. Like like some of these players that weren't picked high in the draft, but still have high impacts and come in and play their tails off and unexpected. It makes you say, well, why did the other teams pass on these guys? Because even try to draft according to their needs at times. You know, um, but the biggest deal with the draft coming up, which team has themselves in the best position to make an instant impact and probably do something different. We've talked the Jets. The Jets got the 13th pick, but who knows? They might end up trading that to the Packers. You know, and they highly favorite. But like I said, the Jets won't make it anywhere with Aaron Rodgers anyway, so it's not going to matter. But then you look at the teams that are above them, and you say, well, um, what kind of impacts will they have? But before I get out of here, with another shout out to Nerd Focus, the energy drink. Before I get out of here, though, um, not just looking at draft order, but looking at um, certain players that have to do uh, uh, some adjusting and getting themselves picked. I mean, the pro days and stuff like that always help. The combine, but really and truly, it all comes down to the connection with the organization that's thinking about drafting you and who they decide to draft. Like you know, New England, New England has a 14th pick. It's going to be interesting to see which way uh, Belichick picks this time around. Like I said, he's been good at picking in the past. But then you look at the Chicago Bears who went down the ninth. Like, what are they going to do? Like, offensive line should be high on their priorities. Like the Falcons, what are they going to do? Are they going to, like we know they're not going quarterback wise. Maybe, but who knows who's going to be available at those points. And the Detroit Lions, with their pick, I think they should go more. I think I think the top things are going to do at that spot. But if I'm Arizona, all the talk around DeAndre Hopkins, I would be looking for a receiver or something if you're going to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins. But that's the time for the show. Catch me next week when we'll be popping and chopping it up more about sports. It's a Diehard Fan show. NBA playoffs will be in full swing next week. So look forward to